Okay, I am live. My name is David Kinder, and today we're going to talk about Primerica and Dave Ramsey. And here's the thing, it's just been on my mind a little bit, and quite frankly, I don't let things fester in my mind for very long, especially these topics, because, it's just not worth keeping in my head. However, I want it recorded, I want it shared. And quite frankly, I do want some of the truth out there. So if I'm doing a little bit of keyword spamming, you know what? This will be good. So here's the thing regarding Primerica and Dave Ramsey. What is it that the industry doesn't like? What is it that they teach? What is it that we wish they would teach? All of those things. So we're going to have a fun conversation. So the biggest thing that comes to mind, especially when it comes to life insurance, is what phrase? Buy term and invest the difference. And you know what? On the surface, that sounds like a great idea. Okay. And here's the thing is that it's an incomplete phrase. What? What's the full phrase? I'll share it with you. The real phrase is buy term and invest the difference. I'm going to keep changing this up. With me. Buy term, invest the difference with me. For what? Mutual funds? Furniture? Stocks? Bonds? Buy a car. Oh, I'm going to go out and buy some life insurance. I'm going to buy some whole life insurance. Well, buy term insurance and invest the difference with me. It was never about planning. It was about replacement. But you might also say, well, whole life insurance or any other variation, it's a terrible investment. Your money doesn't grow as much. And I'm going to completely agree with you. And I'm going to share with you some more about how life insurance works. But the truth is, that is the biggest thing. Now, why do I love Primerica and Dave Ramsey? Why do I love them? Number one, industry disruptors. Show me a company that changed an industry as much as Primerica did. Primerica changed the life insurance industry and turned it on its heels. Why did it do that? Because of Art Williams' experience with his father. His father passed away early. His father passed away, and they only got the smaller whole life insurance benefit. And when Art discovered that he could have bought 10 times as much coverage, and paid the same amount as whole life, but if he would have bought it as term, the family would have been better off. You know what? I can't disagree with that. When an agent needs to solve for the need for protection for a family, you got to solve for the death benefit first. And you got to make sure that it's affordable, because if the worst happens, that agent has to deliver that check and make sure that that client is taken care of. So I have no qualms about that. Okay. So industry disruptors, because the insurance industry, the standard was sell whole life insurance for whatever the client can afford. It wasn't full protection. It could have been sold as an investment. I'm going to put that in a question mark because I'm not sure if they were doing it that way or not. Look, I'm a little on the young side. That doesn't mean, I wasn't there. Okay, so I just want to clarify. I wasn't there for this part. And I'll talk a little bit more later about how life insurance really works, because these two promote a whole lot of mistruths. I'll get to that later. Okay, so first part, industry disruptors. Here's the second part. They work with the people who normally would not who the financial services industry would not normally work with. So we're going to say the forgotten population. The forgotten population. Think of it this way. If you have a young family, you're barely making, in these days, $60,000 a year. I'm here in Southern California, so that's not a whole lot of money. And if you're barely making $60,000 a year and you're married, you got a couple of kids, you know what? You probably just need some term insurance and get started on a plan of some kind. That's a perfect Primerica prospect. Absolutely it is. And that person probably needs to build up more savings that they can access right away. So I have no problem with that. Now, the criticism that often comes up is, but it's expensive term. And for today's standard, there's no chronic illness, there's no critical illness, although I think there's a terminal illness benefit, so that part's okay. But it doesn't have as many features and such, and it's more expensive. You know what? Are you meeting with them or not? At least they're also promoting, I'm telling you this, they're promoting the need for insurance. How can you get mad at a company that tells everybody, buy life insurance? How can you get mad at a company for doing that? Anybody that does, well, you're not looking at the industry and trying to represent the industry as a whole. You might be thinking, well, I want you to buy from me. Or I might be thinking, my company's the best one. Or we're the only ones doing it right. Quit that garbage. They serve a purpose. And if we appreciate that, maybe they might stop being trolls with us. Yes, that's part of my complaint. Because, quite frankly, the industry disruption part, it feeds the trolls or feeds troll behavior. If you could read that. I know my handwriting is atrocious. So troll behavior, what do I mean by that? Troll behavior is when you have an agent and they're interacting with you a little bit, at least with me on some of the discussion groups I'm in, and the person just goes, nah, 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 with whatever you try to share. I hate that. That's being a troll. And in fact, in the groups that I moderate, I kick you out. I'm perfectly okay with people with Primerica and followers of Dave Ramsey. If you love term, sell more of it. By the way, it just means there's more for us to replace, but get the word out, just like the rest of us are trying to do. That's my love-hate relationship. Now, here's the other part that I love. So here, I'm going to, you can tell I didn't really plan all this in advance, but I have a mental outline. Number 4, makes the rest of us better. Because of Primerica, if we're going to sell cash value life insurance, we have to be better at it. You've got to be able to demonstrate exactly why it's in the client's best interest, why what you're recommending is better for them. Guess what? I got to tell you, when I went to my first insurance agency, I already had my Series 7, my 66, my insurance license, and I just finished up my CHFC designation now. And I was waiting for them to show me how cash value life insurance was in the client's best interest. They didn't do a very good job trying to teach me. I had to learn it. It took a long time for me to learn. The good news is I know it better than most people. But if you're going to be marketing whole life insurance, IUL, VUL, EI, OUL, whatever it's going to be, you've got to go back that up. Why is it better for the client than term? You can't assume that term, that whole life or whatever it is the standard go-to anymore. Why is that? Because of Primerica and Dave Ramsey. You got to get better. How do we get better? Do the math. All you have to do is show the math. Show why it's in the client's best interest. No problem there. So, but now, by the way, out of all of this, Primerica is an insurance company. Out of all of them, they are a company. They pay death claims. They will pay a death claim. They are financially sound. You will never hear me say anything negative about Primerica as a company because they will pay out a death claim. If the policy is in force, they will pay out a death claim. Now, I do want to talk about a couple of things that often come up as misperceptions. Let's see if this thing really works here. I need a better eraser. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about the Primerica policy. And I'm talking about the general stuff. And I mean, just like every other company, there's differences and things, but there is a difference between guaranteed level and guaranteed renewable. Now, I do find it curious, but it is an insurance company, so let's not forget that. As an insurance company, their term on the front says term to age 95. Now, what is the basic impression of that? That means, oh, I could keep this for the rest of my life. No, it's not what it means. Okay, so first of all, guaranteed level is for the premiums. So the premiums are level, let's just say it's 20 years. See your own personal policy for whatever it's going to be, okay, after 20 years. Now, what's interesting about them, about Primerica, is that they will go up every 5 years. You'll get a higher premium. And it's level for 5 years, then it's higher for 5 years, higher for 5 years. Which means it's not guaranteed level to age 95, it's guaranteed level for a period of time. Guaranteed renewable means you do not have to show evidence of insurability. Basically, as long as you have the money, you can keep the policy. Now, over time, that policy gets too expensive. It's designed that way. It's actuarially designed that way. So whenever someone says, well, I've got term to age 95 with Primerica, no, we need to talk about the difference between guaranteed level and guaranteed renewable, because at some point, this will simply get too expensive. But you can keep your coverage as long as you have the money. No problem there, okay? So that's one misperception about Primerica's policies that sometimes comes up. Now, here's the next one. This is the big one. The biggest misconception out there regarding life insurance. And Primerica has done a great job of promoting a myth as fact. And the biggest thing that they say is you only get either the death benefit or the cash value at death. Okay? That is so wrong. You have no idea how wrong that really is. So, what is the truth? I'm going to give you the formula, then I'm going to illustrate it. The formula is net death benefit equals cash values plus net amount at risk minus any outstanding loans. So there's a little bit of a formula in there, isn't there? You thought you didn't need algebra after high school. Turns out you were wrong. We've got to figure out what these values mean. So let's have a little fun here. We're going to put in a box. And we're going to assume a minimum premium for a maximum death benefit for whole life insurance, okay? Which means the premiums start from 0, and we're going to keep growing them till we fill the box, okay? Well, I want you to think of this part as the cash values. This is the death benefit. This here is the net amount at risk. Now, you could also have a loan. Let's just say you had a loan over here. Okay. If you were to die here, 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 or here, this plus this minus this, that's what you're going to get. The cash value is a component of the death benefit. It is not either or. It's within the death benefit. Think of it like your house. If you bought a house, you're building up some equity. Although your equity doesn't earn anything, but you're building up some equity as you're paying down the mortgage. When you sell your house, you don't get the equity on top of the sale price of the house. You get the sale price of the house. You happen to have your equity incorporated into that total that total calculation. It's the same thing with life insurance. Now, why does that myth perpetuate? I'll tell you exactly why. Now, the myth is perpetuated because when you look at a life insurance illustration, how many columns of numbers are there? You could have 10 columns or more, however many columns of numbers there are, none of them say for a net amount at risk. None of them have that. So you think, oh, well, you're going to get this number or you get this other smaller number. And so it's easy to believe that because that column isn't there, that, oh, well, they keep that money and then you get this money. No, insurance companies don't print money. That's the federal government's job, and we can see that they've done a great job of that this past year. No, this is part of the reserve, and the reserve is incorporated into the death benefit, which is also pooled with everybody else that has bought insurance. So that is the number one thing that they say, well, you only get one or the other. Had someone on one of the discussion groups talk about one of the books that they love within the Primerica, probably Dave Ramsey Culture too. And they say, well, I looked at the reviews. I wasn't going to buy the book if it was going to perpetuate this myth. And all the reviews said, yeah, you only get one or the other. Wrong. You get both, but it's incorporated in the calculation. Okay, what else? I'm trying to think of anything else on that. But here's the thing about Primerica reps is that they do serve the public. And by the way, there are, I'm coming across more Primerica reps that are very professional. Yes, they do hard up and they'll say, look, at this stage of the game, you really should have term and let's start an investment plan. By the way, one of the things that I actually don't like about some of the people that promote whole life insurance. One of the things that I don't like is that they often say something like, well, people don't invest the difference. So, whole life is better. Bull. Quit saying that garbage. Now, here's why I don't like that. Because it takes just as much discipline to have an automatic premium investment to come out of your account as it does for a policy premium payment. It's the exact same discipline. The only thing is that you look at the insurance, you think of it as a bill, you don't think of it as something you can access, so it builds up because you don't think you have open access to it. Whereas the investment, you might say, you know what, I've built up a few thousand, maybe it's time to go ahead and upgrade. It's a behavioral finance issue. It's not a this is better than this issue. So you'll never hear me say, oh, well, people don't invest the difference, therefore it's, it doesn't work. Just go with whole life, you'll be better off. No, I'm never going to say that. That's a behavioral finance issue, not a we're superior to this thing issue. So, what else? I know I've got something else off the top of my head. I know I forget this thing about doing this live. Can't think of anything right now. So anyway, Primerica, they help this was it. Okay. So here's the thing is that Robert Kiyosaki, whom I really like, he says that there's essentially three kinds of financial plans. And actually, either I got this from Robert Kiyosaki or I got it from Kim Butler, who was actually one of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad advisors. And there's three kinds of plans. There's the plan to be safe and secure. There's the plan to be comfortable. And there's the plan to be rich. And so now what he promotes is just plan to be rich and get the other ones automatically. And I'm not sure I would go that far. But the plan to be safe and secure, that's exactly where term insurance belongs. And who do the Primerica agents primarily work with? People who need planning there. It's a beautiful thing. Planning to be comfortable, that is where your IUL sale can come in, where your whole life sale, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because you have more to protect and more to grow. Okay, now let's talk about, we're going to have a little bit of fun here. Talk about network marketing in general. Network marketing, it's it's often criticized and such, but here's the neat thing. With network marketing for intangibles, you really negate a lot of the business risk as opposed to selling soaps and skincare and whatever else is out there. Because you're selling an intangible, you're selling a contract, you're selling a service, which means that you can't be garage qualified on those things. So the nice thing about intangibles is that it's easy to distribute. Here's the problem I have with network marketing for financial services. Number one, it's not easy in this industry. But Primerica would probably have you believe that this is a very easy business. That's because they have a very easy cookie cutter thing. By the way, I give them full credit for having a mantra, something that they believe in. They just don't have the full education, but I love that they believe in something. So I don't want to promote that this business is easy, because it's not. Here's the second part. They often quote J. Paul Getty, which is the idea of I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. When I get done here, I'm going to put a list in the description, or not a list, a link in the description of Eric Worre, who's of MLM Pro, and he's going to talk about the key performance indicators. What does it take to build a leader? How many people do you have to recruit according to industry statistics? You'll want to find out those statistics also for your company, either Primerica or if it's World Financial Group or PHP or whoever it is. But here's the thing. I don't want to babysit. I don't want to spend a ton of time trying to find 100 people that are going to believe as I believe and train them and get them licensed and whatever else. Here's the way I look at this equation, because in financial services, if you get more advanced education, more advanced skill, and you learn your industry, you learn your craft, there's the art and the science of this. But if you learn it, what if, let's suppose you have 100 people and they each sell $1,000 of a profitable product in a year. Okay. What would that be? That would be 100,000, right? And then you would get, let's suppose that you get 10%. You get $10,000, assuming that that's really how it all works. You know, what if each one of my sales is 25,000 each? And what if I could do, I don't know, 4.25? So you do this 4, 8, 12, do it 16 times. What would that number look like? I don't have to babysit. Someone else had posted on a thing before saying that because they have a team, they're able to take vacations. When you're in the deal making business, you get to take any vacations you want. You just don't fake yourself into thinking you can just roll over every morning. You got to plan those things in advance. So really, all I have to do is improve my skills, understand the value proposition I can bring. Let me do more of those rather than trying to babysit to do that. That's where I look at that. Now, is there a break-even point where one is going to be better than the other? Maybe. Depends on your company and the compensation and all that stuff. Doesn't mean I don't like teaching. I love teaching. That's why I do things like this. Doesn't mean I don't mind coaching. But at the same time, I'm like, leave me alone. Let me go do my thing. By the way, the top producers of our industry, Joe Gandolfo, who wrote the book, How to Make Big Money Selling, Ben Feldman, John Savage, Mehdi Fakhrizadeh. When you study what they do, they have an undying belief in what they do. They did it until they died. And they didn't do it because they had to. They did it because they loved it. And that is the kind of conviction that I want. I don't need to convince anybody of anything. I don't need to say, hey, you're going to go up and get to work today. Are you going to sell a policy this year? I don't want, that's not the life that I want. And by the way, quite frankly, you get a whole bunch of recruiters in a room, everybody pounces on the new guy. So I'm not going to be that person. So I think that kind of outlines my stuff. All we have to do, if you're in any other company, besides Primerica, and you don't approve of Dave Ramsey, Susie Moron, or whoever else, all you have to do is show the math. And so first of all, you got to know how life insurance really works. And the next part is you got to know why it's in the client's best interest to overpay for the life insurance. Because I want you to keep in mind, this is what you're competing against. What you are going to be competing against is the rule of 72, which is if I have 100,000 earning 7.2% for 10 years, you will have doubled your money to 200,000. In a whole life policy, you put in $10,000 a year for 10 years, you still have 100,000. This is your competition. Why is it in the client's best interest to have what appears to be less money? You solve that, I've already solved it. But if you solve that, you can make the sale. The problem is the rest of our industry doesn't understand why less money in the right place makes all the difference in the world. You solve that for the client, yeah. You can be able to get the sale as long as they actually want that benefit. So I think that kind of wraps it up. Can't think of anything else, but the fact is that I don't want to think about Primerica and Dave Ramsey. They stand for a certain type of audience. By the way, Dave Ramsey, of course, great marketer, great promoter. He promotes financial literacy. He does not have the advanced ideas of life insurance. He doesn't have that, but I'm not going to give away everything I know. All you have to do, if you're an agent, be ready to do the math. If you're an agent, be ready to show the benefits. If you're a client, you're willing to not be a blind follower. You're a client of Dave Ramsey, more or less. Basically, you bought his books, you subscribe to everything. You have to be willing to put some things aside and look at the math. But you got to work with somebody that you can trust that will show you the big picture. Other than that, I think that's kind of it. So I'm not into team building. I'm into industry building. I'm into promoting great ethical standards. I'm promoting the quality use and the quality of financial professionals. But I really can't. I don't think I've left anything out. But they serve a purpose. I love the fact that they've disrupted the industry to make the rest of us better. Question is, are you one of those as an agent that can get better? And if you're a client, are you looking at things in a more critical way? That's actually why I call my blog Real Wealth versus Fake Wealth. I call that fake wealth in most cases. So do you want real wealth? Why would I call this real wealth and that fake wealth? Kind of interesting, isn't it? All right. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for tuning in and catch you next time. Thank you.